Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lawrence Wong, and I'll be counting down with you to the 2020 Singapore Book Awards live show on the 13th of August, 4 p.m. It's 9 days to go, ladies and gentlemen, and these are the finalists for the Best Illustrated Non-Fiction title. Here we go.
The Best Illustrated Non-Fiction titles are The Antibiotic Tales, written by Sunny Liu and Sue Lee Young, published by Epigram Books.
Coming up with The Antibiotic Tales takes several items off my bucket list. Developing a comic book, reaching out in a relatable way about the huge, wicked problem of antimicrobial resistance, and last but not least, working with the great Sunny Liu, whose work I've admired since reading The Arts of Charlie Chan Hock Chart. This completely unexpected nomination is like icing on a already very satisfying cake.
For me, it was a chance to play being a doctor at some level, or being at least involved in the medical scene. My dad was a pediatrician for many years, and I always felt I didn't quite follow in his footsteps enough. So this was a good chance to work with a real doctor and maybe do some good in the medical world.
We wanted to reach more people, especially the children. Say if they were to pick it up and they read it and they didn't understand it, they could ask their parents. So in some ways, we are also targeting their parents indirectly.
The Way of Kueh, Savouring and Saving Singapore's Heritage Desserts, written by Christopher Tan, published by Epigram Books.
Thank you so much. I am happy and delighted to be nominated for this award. I wrote The Way of Kueh truly as a love letter, pun fully intended, to local kueh. Ever since I grew up learning how to make kueh with my mum and my grandma, it's been something that's very close to my heart, very close to my stomach, of course. And it's something that I hope all readers everywhere, whether they're from Singapore or not, will take to their hearts, because it's a part of our local food heritage that is astonishingly deep and rich and diverse. So it took about 4 to 5 years of research and 2 years of solid, intense cooking and writing to make this book. Over that time, I spoke to over 40 different kueh makers from all different walks of life, some old, some young, just to get their opinions and their perspectives and their memories, which I wanted them to share. I did not ask them to share their recipes because I wanted to respect their intellectual copyright. So I created or recreated all the recipes in the book by myself from the ground up. And as it turns out, we managed to fit in 104 recipes for Singapore's most classic kuehs, some of which are almost extinct and endangered, many of which are still enjoyed today. And I really just want everyone everywhere to enjoy making and eating kueh. So thank you so much again.
700 Years, A History of Singapore, written by Kwa Chong Guan, Derek Heng, Peter Boschberg, and Tan Tai Yong. Co-published by Marshall Cavendish International Asia and National Library Board, Singapore.
Simply because in 1984-83, the old National Museum invited Dr. John McSick to come and do the first archaeological excavations on Fort Canning. And against the odds, we found, I think, about 15 kg of shards that could be clearly dated to the 14th century, and therefore confirming what the Malay annals had said, that there was a settlement here, a great city here, that we all taken as a myth.
Now, there are lots of questions we hope the book will address, and we hope that Singaporeans, young Singaporeans, will be sufficiently enthused to now take up the challenge of discovering, digging deeper, and making the deeper connections. And we hope that history will also not be just a history of a group of people who govern Singapore, but a history of the people who make Singapore. So we hope that by spreading the base, we will have a richer, deeper history of Singapore. So that's the genesis of this book. And this is where we've gotten to, and we hope that maybe in the next 5 years, there will be new history books that will stretch what we have done.
There, but then again, 2 years ago, I worked through 4,000 pages of Dutch Foreign Ministry documentation on the negotiations between the British and the Dutch, specifically for their agreement, the Anglo-Dutch agreement, and there's some really interesting things that came out of that. So again, I have to say, you need to read the book.
Has to speak to that generation at that time. And so as we move, like, this, today it will be this book, right? 10 years ago was the other book. 20 years down the road, it will be a different one. And that's totally fine, because what it means is that history is alive in this society. It would be really sad if we had the one narrative for 50 years and it never changed, or that it was never questions were never asked. So to me, that's actually a really wonderful thing. And my hope is that actually we'll be able to spur interest in the younger generation. Not everybody can be a historian, but everybody can be historically minded.
Bawah Staircases, written by David Robson, published by Talisman Publishing.
Hello, I'm David Robson, and I'm the author of the book Bawah Staircases, which was published in Singapore by Talisman. The book appeared in 2019 to mark the 100th anniversary of the birth of Sri Lankan architect Geoffrey Bawah. Bawah was born in the British Crown colony of Ceylon in 1919, still at that time a small corner of the British Empire, and died in 2003 in the Democratic Republic of Sri Lanka. Having trained first as a lawyer, he came late to architecture and finally qualified at the Architectural Association in London in 1957 at the age of 38. But he then went on to become a key figure in post-independent Sri Lanka and one of the most important Asian architects of his generation. In his native land, he built, amongst other things, the imposing new National Parliament, a new campus of the University of Ruhana, a beautiful Buddhist temple in Colombo, an equally beautiful convent chapel in Bandravella, and a whole string of fascinating resort hotels. A monograph on his work was published in Singapore in 1986 and had a huge impact on a whole generation of Singaporean architects. He then went on to produce a string of designs for Singapore during the final decade of his career, including that for an astonishing pyramidal glass house in the Botanical Gardens. But sadly, none of those was built. So, why a book about staircases? Why Bauer staircase? In 2004, I was asked to curate an exhibition of Bauer's work in the German Architecture Museum in Frankfurt. The museum was on 4 floors that were connected by 2 flights of stairs. And we decided to fill the 2 stairwells with photographs of Bauer's own staircases. It was then that I began fully to appreciate the rich variety of the staircases that Bauer had created during his career, and decided that one day I would celebrate them in a book. Bauer was a theatrical designer, and staircases are often the most theatrical elements of a building, involving, as they do, a combination of vertical and horizontal movement. Each of Bauer's staircases was unique, and he never repeated himself, so the book is full of surprises. I was fortunate to be able to work once again with Talisman Publishers, who maintain a strong interest in architecture and are committed to producing books of the highest quality. I was also fortunate in being able to work with photographer Sebastian Possinges, who entered fully into the spirit of our staircase chase and produced photographs that are full of movement and visual excitement. We had lots of fun in making the book, and I hope that this sense of the pleasure of architecture will be shared by our readers. Thank you.
And those are the finalists for today. To know the winners of this category, join us on the 13th of August, 4 p.m, right here at the Singapore Book Publishers Association Facebook page. I'd also like to ask you to join me next Monday to know the finalists for the best literary work. Till then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Lawrence Wong. Have yourselves a great weekend.
All shortlisted titles in Singapore Book Awards 2020 are available on Amazon. Get your copy now.